GSTR Analyzer gives you the visibility of your borrower's financial know-how. GSTR Analyzer analyzes the raw data available on GSTN server and gives insights on the various sale and purchase transactions to the lender. Digital lending software platform originates loans and is powered by SCORME APIs for determining loan eligibility using analysis across financial statements. Credit monitoring, highly flexible and scalable software, enabling the lender to analyze large volumes of data as per requirements. SCORME, a leading FinTech company in India. Get in touch to know more. SCORME Solutions and Resurgent India presents virtual session on the synergy of AI and blockchain in FinTech revolution.
Mr. Praveen Khanna, Vice President, SCORME Solutions. Praveen Khanna is an alumnus of the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. Praveen has rich BFSI and technology experience of more than 20 years. In his earlier role at a London-based financial services firm IHS Markit, Praveen worked in the area of new age banking platforms for global investment banks and buy-side institutions, and saw the journey from paper-based contracts in over-the-counter derivatives and syndicated lending to digital models. Through his career at IHS Markit, Praveen was involved in setting up new verticals in India and establishing alliances within the financial services industry in India. He now heads alliances at a FinTech in the area of digital lending and credit analytics, SCORME Solutions. Mr. Kumar Bineet is the co-founder and CEO of FinMap, a financial guidance app that offers advice and assists users in utilizing their finances efficiently. He is also a highly experienced and well-educated professional. Kumar has a postgraduate degree from the Institute of Chartered Financial Analysts of India, ICFI, and more than 20 years of experience in the field, and he has solidified a name for himself as a thought leader and authority in the area. Mr. Chetan Pandey, Associate Vice President, EaseBuzz. Chetan is data enthusiast with over 10 years of experience working and managing enterprise-scale data warehousing systems, expertise in cloud-native technologies and architecting enterprise-scale data management platforms, passionate about solving complex data challenges and leveraging data insights to drive business value, skilled in project management, team leadership, and communication with cross-functional teams. Mr. Anand Agrawal, CIO, Assets Care and Reconstruction Enterprise Limited. Mr. Anand Agrawal is a senior IT and cybersecurity professional with 25+ years of global and domestic delivery experience in BFSI, telecom and BPO industry, working with Fortune 100 organizations. Mr. Anand has driven enterprise-scale projects in the area of digital transformation, ERP, CRM, BI, field force automation and IT security. He has led multiple Six Sigma Black Belt projects in the areas of cost optimization and customer experience. Mr. Mazin Abdullah, Head of Co-Lending and Fundraise, CRED. Mazin is currently heading co-lending and fundraise at CRED, which is India's largest lending fintech with majority lending via bank and NBFC partnerships. He was previously associated with Lending Cart heading Cross-Sell, where he launched an overdraft lending association with banks. Prior to this, he worked with Bank Bazaar, which is a marketplace for cards and personal loan. He was also worked with Standard Chartered Bank and Indian Oil Corporation Limited. Mr. Nagin Kommu, CEO, Digitap. Nagin comes with over 15 years of work experience as a leader in product management, business strategy, go-to-market strategy, digital strategy, growth and margin improvement across telecom and IT sectors, as well as around 6 years of strategy consulting experience in telecom, IT sector spanning geographies such as India, NZ, Middle East, Southeast Asia.
Hello and a very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists and our audience today on this session about the synergy of AI and blockchain in FinTech revolution. My name is Praveen Khanna, and on behalf of ScoreMe and Resurgent India, it will be my privilege to be your host today. We are joined today by an esteemed panel of members from the banking, FinTech, and financial services industry, and it will be our honor to learn from their deep domain experience and the journeys from physical to digital lending and their experiences in working with the FinTech industry in India. Now, before I invite the panelists for their views, a few highlights on the enormous growth of digitization in banking in India. Digital banking and FinTech is increasingly becoming omnipresent in India today, right from wealth management, insurance, payments, and of course, lending. The expected market sizes is growing from 2 lakh crores to almost 8 lakh crores by 2026. India is the third largest in the number of fintechs globally after China and US, and it has the highest adoption rate at 87% as compared to a global average of 64%. I think from the first phase of digitization in financial services via the opening of the Jan Dhan accounts to the second phase via UPI, I think we are now in the third phase of digitization, and this is being led by digitization in lending. We have the emergence of the neobanks in India. We have the account aggregator model, the setting up of digital banking units as proposed by the government. Rural internet in India, surprisingly, is almost growing at a 30% CAGR in the last 5 years. So with the emergence of digital lending companies in India, the country has witnessed a growth of CAGR of almost 40% in the last 10 years. India's digital lending market was worth USD 270 billion in 2022, and it's expected to reach USD 350 billion by 2023, as per a recent Experian report. Another interesting area is the emergence of BNPL. The existing BNPL market in India is around 3.5 billion, and that's expected to grow 15x to almost 50 billion by 2026. A recent IDC report on AI and payments was talking about 40% of payments that will be optimized using AI-derived routing models by the year 2025. There's new connectivity platforms that are being built. Almost 35% of corporate banks will platformize their connectivity just by 2023. To cite some examples of use of AI in banking sector, Bank of Baroda is using AI for cash forecasting at currency chess. They're using predictive maintenance of ATMs. Several banks now deliver paperless and straight-through processing. SBI is using an intelligent assistant, an AI-powered smart chat assistant. HDFC Bank has a smart chat bot called Eva that works with Google Assistants. India's third largest private bank has just unveiled a conversational IVR. It's called AXAA by Axis Bank. According to a report, ICICI Bank has also scaled up its robotic process automation initiative to almost 750 software robotics, handling 2 million transactions per day. So these are very, very exciting times for India. And yet, there are a few challenges that still remain. There are frauds that are happening constantly. Recently, 94 digital lending apps have been banned by MeitY. The gap in credit access, especially on the MSME side, still continues to be huge. So almost out of these 70 lakh crore exposure to MSMEs, only 16 lakh crores is still via formal credit. So some of the themes that we want to cover today is what's the future of credit access via digital lending, the emergence of the account aggregator model, the role of AI, machine learning, analytics, and blockchain in designing credit rule engines and payment engines. What are the guidelines for digital banking and use of AI? There are concerns on frauds. There are concerns on exclusion and ethical concerns on use of AI. How's the evolution of neobank? What's the challenge on monetizing neobanks? How will AI and blockchain take forward the fintech industry in 2023? So we've got a very diverse panel. Very happy to hear their views today. First up, I'd like to invite Mr. Kumar Binat. Kumar Binat is the co-founder and CEO of FinMap, a financial guidance app that offers advice and assists users on utilizing their finances efficiently. Over to you, Kumar. Kumar, you're on mute, if you can unmute.
Hi, Praveen. Thank you for inviting me on this session, and good evening to all the viewers who are online. So, yeah, let me introduce myself. Although Praveen has given a brief introduction. So, I'm the founder and CEO of FinMap. It's a personal finance management app. What we do is basically we help users to see their financial future into the present day as to how it will look, so that if there is any gap, they can start taking action now before it's too late. Now, so let's go, let's talk about a little bit about AI and, blockchain, So, I'm not a tech guy, I'm a business guy, but I'll just tell you, how I foresee, AI in India and evolving. Now, for me, AI is nothing but probably a mathematical regression, right? Now, obviously, because there has been a lot of buzzword as far as AI is concerned in lots of applications, right? And, even my investors have been talking about, implementing AI in FinMap. Now, it's very important to understand how AI works before we start implementing AI, So AI is all about, the input and the output, right? So it works on two algorithms, which I have studied it very recently. It works on two algorithms. One is obviously, the training algorithm, the data, where the training data is concerned, you train. And then there is a deployment algorithm where you deploy whatever the training and the learning has been done. Now, in both these scenarios, data is very important. Without data, a lot of good AI companies have failed in this project because of the bad design, because of the datafications, or how they analyze the data and who trains the data and how it is trained. So it is so, India's story as far as the data is concerned, it is still in a very nascent stage. Although it's been growing, with the UPI, with the digitalization, with financial inclusion, but datafication or the study of the data is still in a very nascent stage, and we still have 70% of the population still staying in a rural area, where the capturing the data, analyzing the data before we come into the AI prospects of it, right, which is still in a very nascent stage. So until more is done, which is currently in progress in India, I think AI will still be in a nascent stage, because unless, you have both the training algorithm and the deployment algorithm, which is, basically based on data, everything runs on data, right? So the data becomes a pivotal key to each and every aspects of whether it's AI, whether it's blockchain or whatever it is. So yeah, answering to your question, let's talk about, one of the things which we were discussing about the future of credit access via digital lending. I mean, digital lending, obviously, I foresee the future of credit access via digital lending in India is pretty bright, and we'll see a continued growth and innovation in this space in the coming years. As simple as that. With more than 700 million internet users, you have 500 million smartphone users. India represents a significant market for digital lending. And digital lending platforms offer several advantages, including faster loan processing, lower cost, greater convenience for borrowers, etc. And with enough data, to be studied, to be deployed. And once the AI comes into the picture, it has its own advantages in terms of detecting the fraud, and various multiple other things which we have. So I can keep on talking about, the role of, the digital lending and, how it is done, and the role of AI. And obviously, as I say, it's a stepping stone, So, how, say, for example, you talk about account aggregator, which was recently launched by the RBI, right? Now, what account aggregator is helping us is to get as many data as possible in a secured way, all right? With all the consent from the end user, because the privacy plays a very important role, And since the AI is built on a lot of data storage and data analysis, so the privacy and security becomes a, major, important aspect from the regulatory point of view and from the companies who are implementing AI, on that front. So, in terms of that, obviously, we are working towards, there's a lot of government initiative. The recent bill has been put in the parliament in terms of data bill protections and data privacy protections, etc. So let's see how things goes up. So this is my, a small snapshot in terms of what I think in terms of the AI and the blockchains and the digital lending, how it progresses and how will it go. I'll keep on contributing further as the session goes.
Perfect, perfect. I think you've shared very, very pertinent points, sir. I think if I were to paraphrase you, I think you've alluded to the quality of data, given the rural market in India. And that quality of data will eventually decide how do we leverage the AI technologies. Because AI has to be eventually built on the historical reference. AI will identify those patterns from historical data and consequently will be able to build on that. And I think a very, very pertinent point on the account aggregator model, given that it's based on consent and privacy, that's a big challenge when you're sharing data between financial firms. The user has to be very, very particular about privacy and consent of data. So I think very, very pertinent points. I would love to hear more about how do you predict the financial model or the financial future, sir? And how one can leverage AI from that perspective. Very happy to hear some views on that as well.
All right, so you're talking from my company point of view.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I can clearly see some references on an AI perspective in that kind of modeling,
Yeah, so basically, I'll probably give you a couple of points. Now, currently, when we help users to see how their financial future looks, it is based on the inputs given by them and our, rule engine, which works, beside that, So there is a certain rule engine which works, at the background based on the data given by and based on the macroeconomic data and the microeconomic data of the country, Based on that, there is a certain, so as I said, even AI is based on the inputs and the outputs, right? The data, what you input and what you get the output of it, right? So there is an immense scope of AI coming into the picture, probably later on, once we have enough data and the consent and the privacy issues, everything being sorted out going forward. So instead of rule engine, we'll be moving to probably an AI-based, recommendations or advisory or financial planning or goal-based financial planning, etc., which will assess the data, historical data of the, and a quality data, and that data and that, training data needs, so that becomes our training data, where the AI will be built going forward, right? The inputs and the outputs, and once the deployment takes place. So it's very important for us to also know who is. So the engineers are responsible for, taking up the algorithm work, right? But the data, the analysis of the data, who is analyzing data, who is giving the data, what kind of a data is being shared, for the AI to predict, whether it is, historical data, financial historical data, or credit bureau data, or etc., or fraud detection data, etc. How the prediction happens, right? So it is us as a business guy, who's responsible for providing those data to the training module, right? So that every aspect of what we are trying to achieve is covered, right? I can give you a number of examples. Suppose, I have seen a lot of, a lot of apps, where, you can just click your picture and the app will say how beautiful you are. I mean, just an example, right? So who designed it? So suppose if a white person has designed, or a black person, or a, Asian guy, or a Japanese guy, or a Chinese guy that has designed it, then probably the design and the training has been done based on his own perception of how a beautiful person will look, right? Say, suppose if a Chinese guy has a perception that only the Chinese people, a lookalike of Chinese people, will be considered as beautiful, then I, as an Indian, come into that app, I'll probably, they'll say you're not beautiful. So that's how the AI's role is in terms of the data is concerned.
Understood. So I think what you're saying is the context itself will play such an important role in assessing and analyzing the data. No,
Correct.
thank you. And I love the idea of blending in the personal with the macro economic data. So there's a lot of leveraging that can happen there as well. I think that's a perfect note for me to invite Mr. Chetan Pandey. Chetan, of course, is a data enthusiast with 10 years of working experience and has worked with managing enterprise scale data. Chetan, over to you.
Hey, so first of all, let me start by saying good evening to all of you, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you and talking about this subject. And that brings me to AI, right? We live in the post-AI world now. November 2022, I think ChatGPT went live. And give you a quick fun stat about it. So ChatGPT was, before ChatGPT, the fastest app to acquire 1 million users was Angry Birds, which did it in 38 days. Before that, it was Instagram, which did it in like a month. ChatGPT did that in 5 days. So, I mean, you can understand the buzz around the technology. You can see a really cutting edge future with the technology. Even in the blockchain space, what I would say is that crypto initially started with something that is completely unregulated and a black box, but the popularity has brought the governments and regulated entities and banks alike to the mentality of, if you can't beat them, join them. Sort of where we are all, we now as a country are thinking about what all we can do around crypto, right? Now, for AI, let me give you an example. SBI in 2017 conducted a hackathon, and they got Chapdex. Chapdex created an AI from them, which does the sentiment analysis through deep learning and camera scans. Now that's like a very nascent use case in terms of AI, but that's a start with one of our leading banks getting into this. They now almost all the banks have a virtual chatbot assistants like Sia, Eva, and all these. Now the point that you guys are bringing in is that what can AI and blockchain do when it comes to the current fintech landscape, where we have moved beyond digitization. We are sort of on the path of digitization, but now the concerns are around compliance, regulation, and how to keep the customer safe and how to provide credit access to people. So firstly, I'll talk a little bit about from a credit access space, right? So in credit access space right now, you brought up a point that Praveen, you brought up a point where you were saying that there is a limited access to MSMEs for credit, right? And that's largely due to lack of data around MSMEs. When you say lack of data, you essentially mean lack of traditional banking data to calculate their credit scores, to calculate their CIBIL, and so a bank or a lending entity can analyze whether they are worth providing the money to, right? But in those kind of cases, and when you come to a country like India in tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities, you are not going to get data like that. And if 70% of your population stays in those areas, you gotta have to come up with alternatives. And alternatives for me, in my mind, is you come up with non-traditional data sets. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say you are lending money to a farmer, right? Now, he might not have a bank account. He might not have any credit score or anything to provide significant confidence for a lending entity. But what can be done is if you can build an AI system that can do context-based data collection, where for a farmer you collect soil data, the area that they belong to, you collect geospatial data, and you judge a probable number around their yield, which then adds up to their lending score, or says, okay, this person can and maybe have such kind of yield, so they probably can get, so we can give so and so amount to these guys. So that's probably in the credit space. Now, talking about the account aggregator model, I think account aggregator model was recently launched in GIF, and I have limited understanding of that. But from whatever I've understood, it's a great initiative because it will make the lending process really fast. You don't want a customer to be validating themselves and providing validation for their credit access every time they go to a new entity, right? We can have those centralized platforms where all the regulated and authorized entities can connect to and sort of get the information at one go. And for that, you give only the pain to the customer once in his lifetime, not like every step of the way. And blockchain, I think that's where blockchain comes in. Blockchain comes in as a closed loop blockchains can really help, where government can, regulated entities can form closed loop blockchains, and then authorized entities can then connect to those closed loop blockchains, get the information, customer information, or the relevant information. And that I would also like to point out, that kind of setup can also prevent the exposure of the customer, limit the exposure. Because right now what I feel happens is that even though we are a heavily regulated banking system, we expect all the separate entities to uphold the regulatory bodies requirements separately. And what we have observed in the past 2 years is that even with the best efforts, it's tough to do, and a lot of people fell out of compliance. Because I can tell you this much, that one hop away from a regulated body, the message gets really diluted, and there are so many different versions of the same message flying around in the market that the lack of the transparency then is not there. And I think blockchain can help you bring that. So yeah, I mean, that way, I think in terms of payment aggregation space, blockchain can really help us. And yes, there is a concern around ethical concerns around use of AI, of what kind of biases can be coded into an AI. Because yes, even with the chat GPT, people are complaining about that it has some either left-leaning biases or right-leaning opinions. And it makes sense, because they are learning from the data that's available around the internet, and we know how polarizing the internet can be. So yeah, I mean, those concerns are definitely.
Perfect, Chetan. Thank you for sharing your views. And I totally resonate with the biases bit. No matter what you say today, you'll get brickbats from both sides today. You know, it's very tough being neutral in the world today. I love the example. I love the example of the farm yield bit, you know, and the use of satellite imagery, the use of drones in predicting the farm yield. I think that's a big use case, and I know from conversation with various banks, that is definitely the need of the hour, and that's something that's being deployed very, very actively. Also love the example of blockchain and use of closed loop blockchain to avoid frauds from a payments perspective. No, we'll definitely circle back to you, sir, for more views. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Anand Agarwal. Mr. Anand is a senior IT and cybersecurity professional with 25 plus years of global and domestic delivery experience in BFSI, telecom, and BPO, working with Fortune 100 organizations. Mr. Anand, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Praveen. Before I talk about AI and blockchain, I just want to take a step back and to bring the context. See, I think if you look at over the past few years, there is an explosion in terms of the growth of the FinTech company in globally as well as in India also. And I think this pandemic in some way has helped the traditional businesses as well as FinTechs to grow. I still remember the days when this suddenly one fine night government declared lockout. I mean, how the NBFC will work? I mean, NBFC traditionally, microfinance companies traditionally have been the field intensive thing. I mean, you can't disburse loan, forget about disbursement, you can't even collect your money back. I mean, so I think suddenly then these fintechs, they came as a life savior. I mean, they said, oh, hey, don't worry, you may not be go field, but we have a system availability. We will give you access, you hook on to us, and you are still able to collect your money. Now, that is the biggest problem they were trying to solve. And then similarly, they said, okay, fine, we are also using our platform. You can also do the digital lending. Now, so there used to be a big amount of debate used to happen just before the pandemic that are fintech going to digital lending or fintech company are going to eat into the traditional NBFCs? But I think issue is not that. I think they complement each other because digital lending company does not have the reach. The physical NBFCs have the reach. The moment they club together, they create the best of the world scenario for each other. Now bringing up to this thing. Now, what this fintech brings? The fintech brings the latest in the technology. What we are talking about, the AI, blockchains. Now, it helps the financial sector companies in terms of reducing their risk. I mean, what were the means of available? I mean, if I have to give a loan, I have to do the credit assessment of a particular borrower. What were the means available to me to the credit assessment? You look into the credit scores. You go to some one or two solutions available to get the bank statements. You take this thing and then you build your own logic. Somebody sitting and based on his intellectual level, he will decide whether this person should be given a loan or this person should not be given a loan. Now, look what these fintechs are bringing now. I mean, let's take your example. It's a Praveen, the Score Me. I mean, you'd say that you can analyze bank statement, you can analyze GST statement, you can analyze ITR statements, and apart from credit history, credit score of the individual, I can also talk. I mean, Chetan talked about the non-traditional data. Okay. I mean, there are social media, social data available. There are telecom bills available. Now, if I club all these things together and create a score, the chances are that my loan getting default would be minimal because I have used all the various publicly available data to evaluate the credit worthiness of an individual. That is point number one. Point number two, we talked about that India has a huge number of unbanked or still a population which is not able to source a loan. Now, I mean, the millennia is entering into the jobs. We have a huge amount of population who doesn't have a credit score. How do I give a personal loan? How do I give this various kind of auto loan, consumer loans to these set of individual? This is where AI comes into picture. Again, because then that creates an alternate source of this thing to me to be able to create a score and give this loans to the set of individual. Chetan talked about again on the farmer side. Again, I want to build upon that. For example, there is a small time guy who runs a small dairy at his home, which is 1 or 2 or 3 some cows or buffaloes, whatever it is. This thing wants to have a loan. Now, where does he get he doesn't have a credit history. Now, as an NBFC, as a fintech, I want to give a loan. So what happens? I mean, I will say that, okay, these are the set of animals he has, poultry he has. This is his income. So income he will have from maybe income, one source income is that. So there are some, what we call is a handwritten slips, pay some purchase he does and some bills which money he recovers. That when I built in a contextual thing with the AI builder, I say, okay, this guy has suddenly, if he needs some 50,000 rupees of a loan, I think his payment capacity is much more than, so I can give a loan to this particular guy. So this is how I think once we are using this thing, this certainly helps. So my credit engine, if I look at, becomes much more robust with the evolvement of the AI into this thing. Now, other very classic example of AI as a fintech or as a any company, I want to open a product, I want to launch a product, or I want to open a new office. What do? I need some data. Now, okay, you may say, okay, Anand, I will give you data, but I don't need raw data. I need an actionable data. So from where that actionable data comes, that comes from the AI. So with AI, I can decide which are the areas where I am going to have a high bad loans. So let me not even launch my product over there, or let me be doubly cautious in terms of my credit rule engine when a loan application comes from then this set of areas. Let me go to an area where, oh, this is an area which credit is very high. Let me have slightly relaxed, or let me have more resources deploy in this area because my probability from this particular area is very high. This is what AI will tell me. Now, coming back to the another topic is that you talked about MSMEs. Now, again on the MSME, I think Chetan also touched upon the topic, but that is where the AI comes into picture. I mean, I'm sure the MSME might be having some amount. He has a bank balance, bank account. He has some business receipt. He has some GST receipt. He may be having some ITR receipt. I think using all these things putting together and creating a score will help banks be able to service these kind of customers. I mean, SMEs, I completely agree, Praveen, with when you said that MSME is the huge scope in India. If India has to grow, MSME has to grow. I don't think there is any debate on that particular point. And I think this is how AI is helping a lot in terms of financial institutions to be able to give the loans and be able to take the loans back from these set of customers. Another example in the different segment, if I look at, is that when I go to, we all do e-commerce shopping or go to shopping. What happens is that when the moment I go to Amazon, I log out. When I go to next time, he will say, hey Anand, this is what I think you were trying to search something. Let me give you some option. Or he will say, hey Anand, last time you purchased trouser of this size, maybe this is what you should look at now. Why are you looking at something different size? From where this coming? This is all coming from data. You talked about Praveen, about the Bank of Baroda being completely on the digital. I don't think that times are far when I walk into the bank the bank door will open and I will hear a message. Hey, good morning, Mr. Anand Agarwal. We welcome you to bank. This time we realized that you come after 1 month. Was everything okay? I mean, we realized that your car is 4-year-old. Would you like to look at a new car? We have good option running on the replacement of the car along with the personal loans. I mean, look at the experience I will get. That bank is saying, oh wow. I mean, they know that my car is 4-year-old. They're ready to replace the car. Want to give me a loan for the car, and with this thing. So I think some of these points are the use cases which AI will drive it out. I mean, it could be in terms of health. It could be in terms of personal space. There are multiple this thing. Now, another important point from the blockchain perspective, I want to touch upon. KYC. We all know how many frauds of KYC happens. Blockchain is the answer to it. I mean, you just can't tamper the identity with the blockchain. So again, going back to the MSME sector, with the blockchain, you can just have the instant payments. You can have the LC open quickly. You know that it is the transaction is 100% secure, 100% authenticated. It is 100% validated. I think I can go on talking about Praveen, but I think this is what I would like to stop here and let my co-panelists talk about. But yes, I just want to make one statement in the end, is that while all this is good, but it is extremely important to be cautious about the data privacy, data security, because with the technology coming up, the bad actors are also are trying to misuse the everything.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your views, sir. And I think you touched upon a very, very important topic, which is the personalization of services via the use of AI. So when I go to a YouTube, based on the video history that I have watched, it starts predicting the kind of songs that I will be interested in. Or if I've done a certain shopping experience on Amazon, they'll start predicting the kind of products that I will be very, very interested in. In fact, I can't even remember the last time I visited a branch, but the offers keep coming over on SMSs or on WhatsApp. So I really love all the views that you've shared, sir. And especially on the aspect of collections. Collections is very, very important from various perspectives. So I think it's a perfect point for me to introduce Mazen. Mazen, of course, is heading the co-lending and fundraising at CRET, which is India's largest lending fintech. We've all seen the advertisement and the advertising campaign. Over to you, Mazen.
Yeah, thanks, Praveen. Thanks all my co-panelists. Thank you, folks. I think a warm welcome to all of you. I think I would want to start. I think Anand sir said a very pertinent point. He said, I'll walk into a branch in future and, there'll be an AI. I think I would want to say, I don't think we'll walk into a branch in future. I doubt if we'll have branches maybe a decade down the line. I think you'll open your app and the app will tell you, your car is 4 years old and why don't you take a new car loan, or you haven't visited your app for the last 1 month. I hope this proves everything is okay, because you don't have to visit your bank app very often. It seems to suggest, yeah, right, everything is fine, right? So I think that is where future is. I think one more
Mazin
point.
Rightly said. I don't remember when I visited last my.
Yeah.
I think know, I know even I haven't, it's been ages since I visited.
Yeah, true. So Mazin, I agree with you. I have not been to branch. I don't know for when did I last visit a branch.
Agree. I think fully. And I think one more point I think was discussed in a couple of discussions in the past is that tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 may I think there's a lack of data, right? I think I strongly disagree with that opinion, right? I don't think there's any lack of data in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 population, right? I think the data is there. I think everyone has an Aadhaar today, everyone has an account today, everyone has a mobile today. And when I say everyone, it would not mean 100%, but at least a reasonably large population, even in rural areas, even in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, right? So everyone has an identity, bank statement, everyone is doing UPI, they're leaving digital trail. I think there's a GST trail. I think it's not about, as far as lending in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, or even rural areas concerned, it's not about lack of data. It's about understanding. It's about ability to underwrite on the data and, so give a loan to the customer. And two, at times, obviously, the income levels in rural areas and tier 3, tier 4 cities are low. And hence, maybe the loan amount that you can give out are low, and hence your cost sort of doesn't justify working in those areas, right? So it's not a problem of data. It's about the problem of effectively utilizing that data and, offering your product. It could be loans, it could be investments, it could be wealth, etc. Right? So I think starting on the digital, and I've done lending all my life, so I'll focus on that. I'm not a blockchain expert, but I'll focus on digital lending, AI, etc. Right? I think while we and if you look at digital lending, right, almost if I speak primarily about, let's say, 2-3 products which are currently happening in digital lending, right? Personal loan, business loan, credit card, right? These are 2 or 3 products which are today happening in completely digital, right? Your home loan, your car loan, a lot of your other LAP loans, etc., mortgage. These are still largely offline yet, right? The process is getting digitized, but the journey is not digital, right, for these products. So, but if I talk about credit card and personal loan, which is where the entire focus of digital lending has been in the last 4-5 years, if you look at data, almost 20 to 40% of lending today in India for these 2 products is actually digital, right? A lot of time, such numbers don't get reflected truly is because a lot of fintechs do off balance sheet lending, right? So lending Paytm कर रहा है, but balance sheet शायद आदित्य बिरला फाइनेंस की है या हीरो फिनकॉर्प की है, right? And similarly, let's say lending Moneyview may be doing, but the balance sheet may be of some large traditional bank or NBFC, right? Or one card may be issuing card, but actually it is the CC bin of SBM Bank, right? So a lot of times when you look at, let's say, bureau numbers, etc., this doesn't get reflected. If you look at bureau you'll feel only 10% of the lending is done by fintechs, but in reality, almost 40% of the lending today is digital, right? 50,000 crore of personal loan happening every month, almost 10,000 crore is by fintechs, and these are conservative numbers because obviously you don't get exact numbers because these are a lot of times off balance sheet exposure, right? Another 10,000, 15,000 is actually digital loan offered by traditional players, right? Banks, NBFCs, right? So almost 40 to 45% of CC and PL today is happening already digitally, right? And this is happening, right? And I think there's one more important thing, right? Honestly, fintechs and banks have not done anything, right? What they have done is they have just digitized the process. So हम पहले बैंक जाते थे और एक फॉर्म मिलता था, उस फॉर्म को भरते थे और 2 डॉक्यूमेंट्स का जेरोक्स लगा देते थे, फोटो लगा देते थे और एक पर्सनल लोन एप्लीकेशन चला जाता था और अप्रूव हो जाता था, राइट? Honestly, banks, NBFC, fintechs have not done dramatic things, right? They have not done transformational things. What they have done is whatever was that offline process, they have just digitized it. So today you go to an app, you enter details, you upload documents, and your application get processed. And even the documents that are required, right, are the very same that you used to submit maybe in the past, right? So so while we speak about digital lending, what we have seen in the last 5 or 6 years is digitization of the existing process, right? True digital lending, right? Do you really need bank statement to understand the financial worthiness of the customer, right? Can you go to LinkedIn and do a employer verification? Can you go to LinkedIn and estimate his income? Can you go to social media and estimate his income, right? Can you understand his income by the other apps on the mobile phone, etc., right? So I think some of these things, some of these cutting edge things are yet to happen, right? And that is where AI with its intelligence, right, will be able to sort of figure out, right? Can we truly do a 10-second loan, right? If UPI can make your payments, I think in the past we used to add account number, name, IFSC code, then you'll have half an hour, to sort of get the account validated, enter OTP, etc. Right? Today with UPI, you can it used to take at least half an hour to 24 hours. Today, if you have to make a digital payment to someone for the first time, it takes a few seconds, right? Not even 10 seconds, right? So I think that is where AI will come in, right? Digital lending may have scaled, right? But it has still not transformed things, right? It has only digitized the process, right? AI is where we need it to sort of bring in the next big level of growth, right? I think another point we discussed was account aggregator, right? I think account aggregator, as far as lending, wealth management, insurance is concerned, is the next big thing, right? Account aggregator actually changes the concept of data, right? How we understood data was data belongs to the institution. So you have an account with HDFC Bank, that data belongs to HDFC Bank, right? That data also doesn't belong to you, because even if you need your bank statement, you'll have to go to a branch, get your printout, get his authorized, right? So for you also to get your own data was difficult, right? And your data always belong to the institution, right? Account aggregator changes it. Account aggregator says no, boss, data belongs to you, right? So if you go to a lender and you want the lender to use your bank statement or your mutual fund statements or your stock holding or your insurance policy and decide your credit worthiness, or if there's a wealth management app who wants to look at your current portfolio, and based on that suggest what is the next investment that you make, all you need is an account aggregator. The data doesn't belong to HDFC Mutual Fund or ICICI Prudential Life Insurance or Axis Bank, right? Data belongs to you. With a few clicks, with a couple of OTPs, you will be able to access your data. The institution that is working with you today or the institution where you've gone today can access their data and tell you what is right for you, what is the right investment for you, what is the right policy for you, or what is the right loan amount or the loan offer from you. So I think, we as a country, right, we've seen significant changes in the last 15, 17 years, right? I think every 3 or 4 years, we as a country have produced something transformational, right? I think 2008 to 2014 or 15 was the period when all of us got a mobile phone, right? I think mobile phone and internet is what happened in the 2008 to 14 period. Then 2010 to 16 period is when everyone got an Aadhaar, right? So everyone got a mobile phone, so everyone got connected. Then 2010 to 15 or 16, everyone got an identity. 2014 to 18, I think, is period when everyone got a bank account, is when Jan Dhan came. Then I think 2016 to 2021, 22 is when everyone started doing digital transaction, right? UPI came in, right? Instant digital transfer of money from P2P or P2M, right? So I think I think the next 3 or 4 years, I think 20 years down the line, I think the next 3 or 4 years will talk about the era of account aggregator, right? I think account aggregator is going to significantly change how a lot of retail financial products are distributed today, right? So I think we will remember this period as an account aggregator. I think we are still in 2017 of just like UPI was 2016 to 19 was the period when everyone was setting it up, right? I think a lot of us may have not even used UPI in that period except to test it. Google पे डाउनलोड करके चेक करते हैं, बट फिर भी हम शायद इतना रेगुलर यूज नहीं करते थे. So I think account aggregator is still in that stage. I think for all practical purpose, it was launched last year. Not all financial institutions are still there as a financial information provider on the app, right? The use of this, as far as tech system etc. is concerned, there's still some glitches. If you have to access your bank statement from 5 bank accounts, you have to enter 5 OTPs. Out of that 5, 2 OTPs will not come to you, right? So I'm saying that we are still facing the teething issues. Maybe another 1 year or 2 year is when the ecosystem will be ready, the ecosystem will mature, and I think post that is when we as a country and the financial institutions will be able to truly leverage this amazing thing called account aggregator that we have all created, and obviously the data that will come if we can use AI to sort of better leverage it better. So today you look at today Amazon looks at your past purchases and tells you, okay, you like funky t-shirts, let me suggest you funky jeans, and your size is 32, so let me suggest you 32, right? So I think tomorrow a wealth management app can like, okay, you've already done a lot of equity investment, right? Why don't you make some debt investment, right? So that you balance your portfolio, right? So I think that is where I hope we are moving towards as far as financial services are concerned.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your views, Mazen. I think a few themes that I captured. So what you're essentially saying with the presence of the Jam Trinity and the coming in of GSTs, there is actually sufficient availability of data in tier 2, tier 3 cities. It's just that the cost of lending and underwriting is still much higher. And that's where I think what you've suggested is we need a speed and transformation. We need that UPI moment from a digital lending perspective. And I guess that's where the account aggregator model comes in. And once it really takes off, the speed and the transformation from a lending perspective will also subsequently happen. So yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your views. Perfect time to invite Nagin. Nagin, of course, comes with 15 years of work experience and is the CEO at Digitat. Nagin, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Praveen. I guess in the interest of time, I'll try to keep it short. Being the last guy, that's always a problem, right? So yeah, but anyhow, I think my fellow panelists and colleagues on the panel, they have covered pretty much all the vital points that need to be covered as part of addressing the both the advantages or the use cases that AI brings in as part of the digital lending ecosystem, and as well as the challenges that come along with it, right? But just to take a little step back, my thought process of what an AI and a blockchain brings to the fintech ecosystem is this, right? So AI brings something like a scalability to the ecosystem, to the digital lending ecosystem, right? So the things that you could do, or you were taking about say 7 days to disburse a loan, right? With the use of AI and the models that get generated out of AI using various data sources and all, you would be able to do that in 7 minutes now, right? Now, what that means is that basically it gives scalability to the entire ecosystem, right? And in the so that allows your banks, BFSI companies to cater to the next 400 million or the next 500 million customers, rather than focusing only on the 100 million customers that you would have been able to serve had AI not been there, right? That's predominantly the role that I see AI to be playing, right? It's got right down to the matter of financial inclusion, because now you are able to, through AI, you are able to bring in those 400, 500 million customers in the tier 2, tier 3 cities that were not serviced previously, either because they didn't have the manpower to service them, and or they didn't have the data to service them, right? Now that's where the main game changer of what AI has done, what AI brings in and what AI should be doing going forward in the fintech ecosystem, right? And I think Mazen has rightly touched upon, if you currently see the ecosystem of the usage of AI in the Indian fintech ecosystem, it's predominantly being used to digitize the processes that were already happening in the offline space. Like for example, if you want to digitize a customer onboarding process through the likes of OCRs or the likes of validations through the government websites, that's what is being the focus of AI of late, or at least up until now, right? But we are now, as Digitap itself, we are now seeing most of our clients wanting to implement AI-based solutions, AI-based models in the underwriting ecosystem as well, right? So most of the NBFCs, right up until say a couple of years back, used to rely only on a bureau score, for example, to take decisions on lending, right? And which is where they restricted themselves to the top 100 million sort of a customers, right? Like, how do you serve the NPC customers if you are only relying on the bureau scores, right? That is when even small startups have come up with the solutions wherein they are innovating on the various alternate data sources that are available and building up scoring models, attaching them to how the lending ecosystem or how the creditworthiness of the customer can be, right? And then opening up avenues for all these digital lenders, right? Saying that, hey, um, don't just look at AI or don't just look at data to digitize your onboarding process, but also look at data, also look at AI to come up with models and score engines to be able to help you in terms of understanding the creditworthiness of a customer, and as well as understand how much of a credit that you would want to get, right? It is now also getting implemented to a great extent, not just on underwriting processes, but also on the collections process, right? So you have various use cases that people are using through data in order to understand whether there is a risk that this customer is going to pay or is not going to pay, right? So now you see actually AI or the models that are being developed by AI percolating down into the various value chain in the digital lending ecosystem, right? Specifically on the use of AI in the underwriting space is where I think the account aggregator is going to play a critical role, right? The entire ecosystem is built on the information exchange or a data exchange between the two between various financial institutions. So the moment that happens, it allows entities or financial institutions to take decisions that they were not able to take prior to the account aggregator ecosystem, right? It goes to decisions not only just on say whether this particular customer is creditworthy or not, but also decisions on what other solutions or products that I will be able to cross sell to, right? And Mr. Anand Agarwal rightly touched upon personalization. So the data that comes out of this account aggregator ecosystem is also being targeted to do certain personalized cross-sell, upsell initiatives as well, right? Digitap is a prime example of all these or the great usage of AI in that particular ecosystem, because we are currently building scoring models specifically targeting two use cases, right? Which is the underwriting and as well as the cross-sell, upsell use cases. And we are relying on alternate data sources which are alternate to bureau scores, right? So we are building scoring models, we're gathering data in a very structured manner and building models on top of that data by using 7 different data sources, right? For an individual, for example, right? So we rely on bank statements, device data, telecom data, e-commerce spends that a customer is doing, social media presence of that particular customer, location data, employment data, right? So all these different data sources are being used, and we are then tying those data sources with the data coming up from those data sources in order to establish the fact that whether it's a creditworthy customer or not, right? Not just that, I think going forward, 2023 will be the era where we'll be starting to use a lot more data to look at personalization, look at cross-sell, upsell opportunities by the various financial institutions, and that's where it'll That's where AI will move towards, right? So I mean, to put it in a nutshell, in my opinion, AI is more to provide the scalability that is needed to get the financial inclusion done from the financial market point of view. The other use of a blockchain, in my opinion, is is to have the trust and the privacy put in place, right? You see, AI is more about gathering a lot of data, gathering and then massaging that particular data and trying to come up with use cases that will help the usage of the data, right? Now, the more the data you have, the more vulnerable you are to the various sort of attacks and securities and privacies, right? So that's where a blockchain sort of a technology can be brought in to then provide the trust and privacy and security for that particular huge amount of data that is being used to bring up the scalability through AI, right? So in my opinion, going forward, I think both should work in tandem, both will work in tandem. One is to provide the scalability, the other is to provide the privacy and the security aspects of it, right? Which is through blockchain. However, blockchain has its own challenges. I mean, we'll need to see how receptive RBI will be in terms of really allowing those technologies, because usually any central banks, right? I mean, they are suckers for centralization. They don't like decentralized processes or decentralized technologies, right? Because that means that you are taking some part of the control away from them, right? I mean, personally, from my own conversations and interactions with personnel from RBI, they're not that go on the blockchain specifically because of these reasons, right? I mean, because if some leakage in the blockchain technology happens, it's very difficult for you to know from where it has happened, right? So, an RBI is very happy to have a central server called a UDI maintain all your KYC data, but it becomes very jittery for them the moment you say that now your Aadhaar data will be spread across, say, 10,000 servers, which are remotely located in India, right? Yeah, so that part of the challenge is very, very critical. As long as the compliance angle is addressed, I mean, it becomes a little more challenging for a technology like a blockchain to percolate into the fintech industry. Because fintech, unlike most other industries, right, it's extremely regulated. So the compliance angle is something that will, in my opinion, will still be a bottleneck for a great adoption of a blockchain technology going forward. It might happen. I don't see that happening in the next few years, but definitely AI data, especially when the data is being taken with the right intent from the users, right? And that's what I think account aggregator, the most important aspect of an account aggregator, apart from the easy access of data exchange and all that, I think it has set the ground rules in terms of how you should take data from the customers and for what purpose you should use that data and for how long you need to take that data, right? Now, even if you are not taking the data through the account aggregator, you are taking it from the customer through some other means. As long as you are not breaching the principles that are being set in account aggregator, right? I think you will find that a lot of data can be obtained from the consent through the users itself, and then you could use the AI on top of that particular data sources to have a meaningful use cases developed on that. And with that note, I think I'd like to
Perfect. No. I think a very, very important point on the role of central banks and then the use of blockchain in that perspective. Very, very interesting point. Now, I'm conscious of time. Any closing thoughts, from the panelists? And I know we've had a very, very engaging and very insightful discussion. Any closing thoughts, Mr. Kumar? Mr. Kumar, you're on mute. Can you please unmute?
Look, I think it's pretty clear that AI and blockchain going forward over the next, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line is going to play a very crucial role, right? And specifically in the financial services industry, whether it's digital lending, whether it's wealth tech, whether it's health tech, whether it's, anything. So I think these two technology are something which needs to be closely watched, And we are hopeful that going forward, these two technology put together will help the financial ecosystem to improve and scale a lot more faster and easier than it is today.
Perfect. I had a very interesting question come my way from the audience, and perhaps very pertinent from your perspective. How should financial services rethink in engaging with customers, especially with the Gen Y, Gen Z customers? Especially applicable for you and perhaps for credit as well, I mean, especially since you're in the wealth management space and since young customers from an India perspective.
So I'll just give a quick answer to it. So, if you see the Indian demarcation of the population and the wealth, as, say, 40 billion of the people are in the top 2% of the Chennai clients. Now, Gen Z, what you call is falling at around, 300 million odd people, right? Now, a lot of this, so what we are doing is basically the applications which we have created is for the Gen Z model, right? Because, we have been Gen Z at certain point of time, probably 2 decades back. And we have faces a lot of issues and challenges where the technology was not there, all those emerging technologies was not there. We have to rely on X, Y, Z factors, in order to make a decision. The decision-making process was quite complex at that point of time and very limited, right? So in order to ensure that those mistakes are not repeated, that's why we are taking advantage of the last 20 years of the technology enhancement or the digitalization which is going, which has been done in the last 14, 15, 20 years. So yeah, so there is a lot of things which Gen Z can think about it, learn about it, and I hope we are able to give knowledge and accessibility to the Gen Z on the challenges which we had faced when we were Gen Z at one point of time.
Perfect. Mazin?
Yeah. So I think, if I take financial services as a whole, right, all the place, right, I think you said that how do we engage with the Gen Z, right? I think the first question you should ask is, are you qualified enough to engage with them, right? Not all financial services player will be able to engage with the customer, right? So, and what I mean is, let's say you are a bank, right? You are a large bank, and while I'll not take names, right? You have low cost deposits, you understand compliance, you understand processes. You may not be the best player to sort of engage with the customer, right? So can you be a balance sheet provider? Can you be a compliance checkpoint and let someone else engage with the customer, right? For example, today ICICI Bank and Axis Bank have a very large co-branded credit card portfolio with Amazon and Flipkart, right? So the customer acquisition, engagement, everything, or at least the most of it is happen on Amazon and Flipkart and not on the bank, right? These ICICI Bank customers are probably not even coming to ICICI Bank for doing anything, right? So I think that is the first question you have to ask. Is engaging with the customer my core capability? Should I do it or not do it, right? And you can still build a profitable, scalable business without engaging directly with the customer, as long as you have someone good with UI, UX, with customer engagement who is doing it for you, right? So I think that is point number one. Point number two is, let's say if you decide to engage with the customer, right? Paytm has decided to engage with the customer. Amazon has, or let's say Cred has decided to engage with the customer, right? So there are fintechs who have decided, or there could be banks who decide to engage with the customer, right? I think once you decide, then I think you need to decide, do you want to become a super app, right? Let's say at what a Tata Neu is trying to become, or you become a app that specializes in one or two things, right? So for example, while Paytm tried doing a lot of things, I think one thing that it has truly succeeded is payments, right? Payments may, I think we still think of digital payments and we think of Paytm, right? So I think, so that's a call you have to take. Do I become a super app and try to do everything? And you need to ask that question, whether you have the capability to become a super app, or you identify one or two things where you can do a kick-ass job and try to excel in that. So I think that is the framework I would suggest for any fintech as far as engagement with the Gen Z, or for that matter, any customer segment is concerned.
So it's the classic focused versus the broad-based business model. That really is the question. Anandji, closing thoughts from your perspective, sir?
No, I think, I would say that we have already seen a lot of use cases of AI. The adoption will increase further, and I think blockchain is still in an nascent stage. And going forward, we'll see the more use cases of the blockchains also.
Perfect. Chetan?
So, as I previously said, we live in a post-AI world. So there's no point in anymore thinking, oh, what all can AI do? But I mean, definitely there's a very bright path ahead of all of us in terms of in fintech space. But what I would like to point out is a couple of things. I think one of the things is the sentiment around loan in the country needs to change. I think Kunal Shah from Cred has spoken a lot about it, that the sentiment around loans is still a very negative connotation that needs to change, at least in the MSME market, which can sort of, then bring around people to be to feel more up to, asking for loans. A softer landing for MSMEs would be nice if we can, if they are not able to pay, or if there is, because with loan and all this lending, you're going to make the customer feel confident that it's not the end of the world if you could not do this, right? Not that to introduce that default, not to introduce a lot of defaulters into the system, but we do need to have a softer landing for MSMEs. And I can't speak as to how much there is currently. More people are experts on the lending and could, speak largely to that. And when it comes to blockchain, largely, I think as Mazin was saying, we are in the 2017 of all these things, like where account aggregators. So yeah, he's absolutely right about that. And blockchain is something that can, make the compliance and regulation process more transparent and more time effective, because right now I think compliance takes a lot of time, and approvals and rejections and results coming through takes a lot of time. So I think that's where blockchain really can add value to. Yeah,
Perfect.
that would be all.
Perfect. I'm conscious we are above time. I want to thank everyone for their excellent views. It's been an engaging discussion. I know we can go on and on this topic, but until next time, thank you so much for your views, and it's bye for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.